Long before recorded history began, before cities rose and kingdoms were formed, before memory itself could preserve the echoes of what once was, there existed a world unlike anything we know today. It was a world standing on the edge between heaven and earth, between light and shadow, between obedience and rebellion. In those ancient days, when humanity was still learning how to walk beneath the sky, unseen forces were already shaping its destiny. And hidden within those forgotten ages lies one of the most mysterious and unsettling stories ever told, the story of the Nephilim. In the earliest days of creation, when the heavens still watched closely over the earth, powerful beings known as the sons of God were appointed to observe and guide humanity. They were not bound by flesh as humans were. They moved between realms, servants of divine order, watchers of human affairs. Among them was a special group called the Watchers, entrusted with maintaining harmony between heaven and earth. Bangers for a time, they remained faithful to their purpose. From above they observed humanity, its struggles, its joys, its fragile hopes. They saw people fall in love, build families, dream of better lives, and cry out in moments of despair. Slowly, something changed within them. What began as observation turned into fascination. What began as duty turned into desire. Plains. They looked upon the daughters of men and saw beauty unlike anything they had known. Grace, warmth, laughter, emotion, qualities that heaven itself did not fully contain. Their immortal hearts, never meant to crave earthly companionship, began to ache. Among them was a leader named Semyaza. Strong, respected, and influential, he felt the same forbidden longing as the others. Yet, he feared the consequences. He knew crossing this boundary would mean rebellion. He knew heaven would not remain silent. Still, desire burned stronger than reason. One night, beneath silent stars, the Watchers gathered. They made a vow together. If one would fall, all would fall. If one would bear judgment, all would share it. Bound by oath, they descended from the heavens and stepped into the human world. And it was a moment that changed history forever. They took human wives. They abandoned their divine assignments. They chose flesh over obedience, and from these forbidden unions, something new was born. Children unlike any the world had ever seen. These children grew rapidly. Their strength surpassed ordinary men. Their minds were sharper. Their presence was overwhelming. They became giants, both in body and in influence. They were called the Nephilim. As they matured, people looked at them with awe and fear. They became warriors, rulers, heroes of legend. Their names spread across lands. Songs were written about their victories. Stories were told of their strength. Some worshipped them, others trembled before them. But greatness without righteousness becomes destruction. The Nephilim did not use their power to protect the weak. They used it to dominate. They ruled through fear. They took what they wanted. They crushed resistance. Violence spread like wildfire. Cities fell into corruption. Justice disappeared. Compassion faded. The Watchers, who were meant to guide humanity, now taught it forbidden knowledge, warfare, weapons, sorcery, manipulation. They revealed secrets that humans were never meant to possess. Instead of lifting humanity upward, they dragged it into darkness. The earth began to change. What was once filled with hope became saturated with blood. What was once peaceful became restless. Every generation grew more violent than the last. Wickedness was no longer hidden. It was celebrated. Glance from the heavens, God looked upon the world he had created and saw it breaking apart. Grief filled his heart. The harmony of creation had been shattered. The rebellion of angels had poisoned humanity. The experiment of freedom had been abused. And now, something had to be done. God summoned his archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, and gave them a mission. confront the Watchers, end the corruption, restore order. They descended with authority that shook both heaven and earth. Michael confronted Semyaza and his followers. For the first time since their rebellion, fear filled the hearts of the Watchers. They realized what they had lost. They pleaded, they begged, they asked for mercy, but judgment had already been written. Menda, chains of darkness were placed upon them. They were bound and cast into hidden depths, imprisoned until the final day of reckoning. Gabriel was sent to deal with the Nephilim. The giants who once ruled the world now became hunted. Their cities were destroyed, their power crumbled, their reign ended in blood and fire. One by one they fell, leaving behind ruins and broken memories. Yet the damage was already too deep. Humanity had learned too much, it had fallen too far. Every thought was corrupted. Every desire was twisted. Violence filled every corner of the earth. God saw that if history continued on this path, nothing good would remain. And so, he chose a reset. Among the countless corrupted souls, one man stood different, Noah, righteous in his generation, faithful in a faithless world, obedient when obedience seemed foolish. God spoke to him and revealed what was coming: a flood, dance, not just rain, but judgment, not just water, but cleansing. Noah built an ark while others mocked him. He prepared while others laughed. He trusted while others ignored. Then the sky opened. Rain fell for days. Rivers overflowed. Oceans rose. The world was swallowed by water. Cities vanished. Mountains disappeared. The Nephilim, the corrupted, the violent, all were swept away. Only the ark remained, floating between judgment and mercy. When the waters finally receded, a new world emerged. Clean, silent, empty. Humanity was given another chance. Noah and his family stepped onto dry ground, carrying the future of the human race within them. God established a covenant, promising never again to destroy the earth in that way. But something strange happened. Generations later, whispers began to circulate. Stories of giants returned. In distant lands, towering warriors appeared. In Canaan, Israelite spies spoke of men so large they felt like insects beside them. In Bashan, King Og slept on a bed of iron, nearly 14 feet long. Remnants of ancient strength still walked the earth. How was this possible? Had some Nephilim survived? Had the sons of God returned? No. Had corruption found another way in? No clear answer was ever given. Some believed the Watchers had fallen again. Others believed traces of their bloodline remained within humanity. Some whispered that God allowed certain remnants to test his people. Others believed these giants were echoes of a forgotten age, fading shadows of something once far greater. The mystery deepened. Ancient writings suggested that when the Nephilim died, their spirits did not rest. Having no rightful place in heaven or earth, they wandered, becoming restless entities, influencing humanity from the shadows. These spirits, some believed, became what later generations called demons. The New Testament hinted at imprisoned angels, bound in darkness for their rebellion. It warned of spiritual warfare, unseen battles, deceptive forces working behind human conflicts. The story of the Nephilim did not end with the flood. It transformed. Over centuries, legends of giants appeared in folklore. Reports of massive skeletons surfaced and vanished. Tales of lost civilizations hinted at impossible engineering. Some speculated about advanced ancient knowledge. Others linked it to extraterrestrial theories. Most scholars rejected these ideas, yet they persisted in popular imagination. The Nephilim became more than history. They became symbols. Symbols of crossing divine boundaries. Symbols of power without wisdom. Symbols of knowledge without morality. Symbols of rebellion disguised as progress. Their story warns of what happens when creation forgets its creator. When desire replaces duty, when strength replaces humility, when freedom replaces responsibility, even today, their shadow lingers. In questions we cannot answer, in mysteries we cannot solve, in spiritual struggles we cannot see. Bonds in conflicts that seem larger than human nature alone. The ancient world may be gone, washed away by time and water, but its echoes remain. The watchers may be bound, the giants may be buried, yet the battle between obedience and rebellion continues in every generation. And perhaps the most unsettling question remains unanswered. Was the age of the Nephilim truly ended? Or was it only the beginning of something far greater, hidden beneath the surface of human history, waiting for the right moment to rise again? Waiting for a moment when humanity would once again forget its limits, when curiosity would outweigh caution, and when power would become more valuable than wisdom. After the flood, the world slowly rebuilt itself. Families spread across valleys and plains. Languages formed. Nations were born. People planted fields, raised cities, and lifted their eyes toward the sky, wondering about the forces that had once reshaped the earth. Yet even as civilization grew, something unseen moved beneath the surface of history. The memory of the giants never completely faded. Around campfires and in royal courts, elders whispered about ancient beings who once walked among men. Mothers warned their children with stories of towering warriors. Travelers spoke of ruined fortresses so massive that ordinary hands could never have built them. Everywhere humanity settled, traces of a forgotten age seemed to follow. In the land of Canaan, these echoes became impossible to ignore. When Moses sent spies to explore the promised land, they returned shaken. Their voices trembled as they spoke of towering descendants of Enoch, men whose presence crushed courage itself. They said they felt like grasshoppers beside them. Fear spread through the camp like poison, delaying destiny and weakening faith. Later generations would face similar trials. Goliath of Gath would rise against Israel, his armor gleaming, his voice thunderous, mocking the armies of God. To many, he seemed unstoppable, another reminder that giants still walk the earth. Yet this time, something was different. A young shepherd stepped forward. David did not rely on size or strength. He relied on faith. With a single stone, he brought down what generations had feared. It was as if heaven itself was declaring that the age of giants no longer ruled the future. Again and again, the scriptures would show this pattern. The remnants of ancient power would rise. God's people would tremble. Then faith would overcome fear. Light would confront shadow. Slowly, the physical giants disappeared. But the spiritual ones did not. As centuries passed, the battlefield shifted. No longer were towering warriors the greatest threat. Instead, deception, pride, corruption, and false knowledge became the new weapons. The same spirit of rebellion that once drove the Watchers now worked quietly through ideas, philosophies, and ambitions. Men's power was no longer measured in height, it was measured in influence. Empires rose claiming divine authority. Kings declared themselves gods. Priests sold forgiveness, scholars twisted truth. Armies marched in the name of glory. Each age produced its own form of giant, systems and structures that crushed ordinary people beneath their weight. The apostle, Paul would later write that humanity does not struggle merely against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces in. It was a reminder that the legacy of the Watchers had not vanished. It had evolved. The battlefield had moved from valleys to hearts. Early Christians understood this deeply. They believed that the fallen angels were real, that spiritual warfare was ongoing, that temptation and deception were not random. They prayed, fasted, and remained vigilant, knowing that ancient forces still sought influence. Meanwhile, outside the world of faith, curiosity about the past grew. Ancient texts were rediscovered. The Book of Enoch resurfaced. Scholars debated its meaning. Some dismissed it as myth. Others saw fragments of forgotten truth. Archaeologists uncovered massive stone structures, whose construction still puzzled engineers. Myths of giants appeared in cultures separated by oceans. Trend: how could so many civilizations remember similar beings? Were they all imagining the same story? Manned, or were they remembering something real? Kiddo, modern science offered explanations: natural erosion, exaggeration, misinterpretation. Yet, questions remained. Some discoveries did not fit neatly into accepted timelines. Some legends were too detailed to ignore. And so the fascination continued. In recent times, new theories emerged. Some suggested genetic manipulation in ancient times. Others proposed advanced lost civilizations. A few connected the Nephilim to extraterrestrial beings. Most experts rejected these claims, but their popularity revealed something deeper. Humanity was still searching, still wondering, still sensing that history held secrets not yet revealed. Banda. Because deep inside, people feel it, that the story of this world is bigger than what textbooks contain. Tond. That something ancient still whispers beneath modern life. That not everything can be explained by chance and coincidence. And perhaps the greatest danger today is not giants of flesh, but giants of thought. Ideas that deny accountability. Baned beliefs that glorify rebellion, systems that reward corruption, technologies that outpace wisdom, knowledge without morality, power without humility, due progress without conscience. These are the modern descendants of ancient pride, the same mistake wearing new clothes. Just as the Watchers once crossed forbidden boundaries, humanity now pushes limits without asking whether it should. We alter nature, rewrite identities, manipulate life, and declare ourselves masters of creation, forgetting that creation was never ours to own. Then history is repeating itself, not in bodies of giants, but in hearts of arrogance. Yet the story does not end in darkness. It never has. In every age, God has preserved a remnant. Noah in a corrupt world, Abraham among idolaters, Moses in a land of slaves, David among warriors, prophets among kings, Ben to Christ among sinners. Light always finds a way. Chained, Jesus himself spoke of the days of Noah, warning that before the end, humanity would once again become distracted, careless, and spiritually blind, eating, drinking, marrying, building, while ignoring the signs around them. Did many believe this was not just about lifestyle. It was about mindset. Jumdia, a return to the same blindness that once allowed rebellion to grow unchecked. A return to forgetting God. Bindi, a return to trusting power over truth. Some interpret modern chaos, moral confusion, and spiritual emptiness as echoes of ancient corruption, not proof, but warning signs, signals. Reminders that humanity still stands at a crossroads. The legacy of the Nephilim is not just about giants. It is about choice. Every generation chooses whether to walk in humility or pride, whether to respect boundaries or break them, whether to seek truth or reshape it. And now, in this age of global connection, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and limitless information, the question becomes even more urgent. Have we learned from the past, Tomelius, or are we preparing to repeat it? Because somewhere in the depths of forgotten history, beneath layers of myth and memory, lies a lesson written in floodwaters and fallen empires. Lend a lesson that whispers through time, that when heaven and earth collide without obedience, when power rises without righteousness, when knowledge grows without wisdom, the consequences are never far behind, and the next chapter of this ancient story may already be in